What's going on, guys? Welcome to the video. So it would seem some in the EU are determined to make Boris Johnson go for a no-deal Brexit. Either that or they're all just plain stupid. Because this morning we have reports that EU trade chiefs are saying Boris Johnson will only get a bare-bones trade deal from Brussels next year, or he will get nothing. Which, to be honest, suits me down to the ground. Now, I'm really not sure what their angle is on this, because at the end of the day, the EU playing hardball is only going to make the British voter back Boris even more, and more so back a no-deal Brexit, which will in course embolden Farage. I'm surprised he hasn't piped in on this yet. But the Sun's article headlines, Bare Bones Brexit. EU trade boss tells Boris Johnson he will get bare bones Brexit trade deal or none at all. The EU's trade chief has controversially declared Boris Johnson will either get a bare bones trade deal from Brussels next year or none at all. Sabine Weyand told business bosses last week that talks will start as soon as possible if Britain leaves on January the 31st as planned. Well, we better leave by January the 31st or old Boris here will be in serious trouble. That I can guarantee. But she insisted the PM's vow to seal a new agreement with the EU by December the 31st, 2020 doesn't leave enough time to strike a comprehensive deal. That's fine. If you can't make a comprehensive deal that suits both sides done in that time, we'll leave with no deal. That's the option on the table to you. You either take it or leave it. That leaves two likely options. The EU's Director General for Trade, Ms Weyand, said a thin, bare bones deal or a hard exit from the transition period without any deal. For which no deal planning is very useful, she added. That's good. If you want to go for no deal, we'll happily go down the same route. We're not fussed. Parliament will be very different this time, so you won't be able to pull the stunts that you pulled before. So keep talking this nonsense, we'll love it. The senior official who will lead talks with Britain over the future relationship risk fresh controversy with the remarks. They flatly contradict the Tory leader who has insisted that 11 months is bags of time to strike a comprehensive trade deal to cover all of the UK's needs. And no, I expect he said that because while they can get it done in there, it is an extremely short amount of time for these things. We see the EU saying many times before Boris got his deal through that there wasn't enough time to open up the negotiations, as many other people had said, but it seems the EU managed to do it and strike a deal with Boris. So I don't really believe they're bluster here. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to complain if Boris can't do a deal, because we'll take no deal. And as it stands, Boris said we will not extend past the transition period, meaning we will leave by no deal at December the 31st, 2020, providing he keeps his word, of course, which he's a politician, so it's never guaranteed. Ms Weyand faced a backlash from Tory MPs for being the latest senior EU figure to intervene in Britain's general election campaign. Former Brexit Secretary David Davis dubbed German national Ms Weyand's remarks the usual bluster. Mr Davis added, what the last 6 months has taught us is when Brussels are faced with a Prime Minister determined to take Britain out of the EU, they come back to the table and talk, which is something I just said a minute ago. Ms Weyand can be bluster all she likes, but she has to explain to her own government how the European Commission strategy will harm German car industry exports to the UK. The remarks by Ms Weyand, who was EU chief Brexit negotiator Michel Barnier's deputy, were made during a breakfast briefing to the Transatlantic Policy Network in Brussels on Wednesday last week. What I question is how this has not come out before it. Why is only in the last 12 hours this being reported on if it happened last week? The media are a bit slow on some of these things, if you ask me. During it, Ms Weyand also attacked Britain for walking away from the EU's bloc, insisting that Europe needs to stick together to stand up to the might of China, Russia and the US. We don't need to stand up to anyone. We can trade with these people. They're all global traders at the end of the day. We can make money from them. We're not at war. We're not going to go to war. This is all nonsense. There is no need for war. These countries don't want war. Russia doesn't want war. China doesn't want war. And the US most certainly doesn't want war with us. They would rather trade with us than start fighting with us at the end of the day. Countries are essentially businesses. Their interest is their GDP and their economy. Going to war does not boost their economy. It ruins it. So no, Europe doesn't need to stick together. The UK needs to jump out of Europe and trade with the rest of the world. Then hopefully the rest of the European nations will follow our lead, because the EU does not need to be there. At the end of the day, no European nation needs the EU to live in peace. It's a different time now to the 1930s or the 1910s. So all this talk about needing to stick together is absolute nonsense at the end of the day. An EU Commission spokesman last night refused to deny Miss Wayans' comments, but the spokesman said the breakfast briefing was a private event, so they would not be commenting on it. Yeah, of course you won't be. Remain campaigners leaped on the remarks. Lib Dem Foreign Affairs spokesman Chuka Ramuna said it's clear the Canada-style free trade agreement that the PM seeks cannot be negotiated within the next year. So what? We'll take no deal then. That's a free trade deal in itself, because believe me, the EU will come crawling once we've left. This is a simple confirmation that a vote for the Conservatives is a vote for the hardest of no-deal Brexits at the end of next year. Good. Maybe that's why Nigel stood down, providing, of course, like I said, Boris has got the balls to do it. Still up for debate. A basic trade deal would involve a straightforward agreement for zero tariffs and quotas on goods, but no detail on regulation, meaning there would be significant checks and delays for products crossing the border. I'm sure there wouldn't be delays for products crossing the border. At the end of the day, the companies on either side and the governments want to make money, so they'll speed that shit along. That's guaranteed. Addressing the CBI yesterday, Mr Johnson again repeated his declaration that there would be absolutely no reason why a deal could not be cracked in the 11 months available. The PM can extend the transition period under which the UK must abide by all EU rules for up to 2 years to December 2022, but has vowed not to. And good, we are not staying in any longer with any sort of luck. Boris won't be the Prime Minister for very long if he extends it to December 2022, I can tell you that much. Miss Wayans' remarks are the third intervention in the election campaign so far by senior EU figures. Well, they've spent years interfering in UK politics, i.e. via the Remainers meeting them, so why does this surprise you that 3 of them? I'm surprised it's not 300, to be honest with you. EU Council Chief Donald Tusk urged Remainers not to give up, and EU Trade Commissioner Phil Hogan said the UK will only get a swift trade deal next year if it signs up to a Europe-wide level playing field. Brexit Secretary Steve Barclay attacked Mr Tusk on Sunday for showing a total disregard for democracy. Mr Barclay added, "This interference in our domestic election campaign shows where the EU elite's real sympathies lie, with a Corbyn government which would renegotiate a deal and then campaign against it in another referendum, as we all know, and they've admitted many times." But I think this should really be taken as good news at the end of the day. The EU telling us that we'll get a bare bones trade deal or no trade deal at all is not bad news in my opinion. That just means that it's on Boris now to deliver a no-deal Brexit if they won't give him a proper trade deal like a Canada-style free trade deal with no political alignment. It remains to be seen, but like I said, Boris, it will be on you. If the EU want to play hardball, it's time for you to play hardball back. We have to remember at the end of the day, they're all politicians. They're not exactly to be trusted, are they? Now, before I go, I want to thank our PayPal, Patreon, Subscribestar and YouTube members for supporting the channel, along with everyone who watches my videos. Remember to let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Leave a like, subscribe with the notification bell and share this video as it helps the channel a lot. And I will see you all in the next one.
This Parliament is a dead Parliament. It should no longer sit. It has no moral right to sit on these green benches. They don't like the truth. Twice they have been asked to let the electorate decide upon whether they should continue to sit in their seats, while they block 17.4 million people's votes. This Parliament is a disgrace, but they're too cowardly to give it a go. But the time is coming. The time is coming, Mr. Speaker, when even these turkeys won't be able to prevent Christmas.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors. Slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires. And that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going, and we are glad to be going. We're off.